To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. The brilliant Ralph Waldo Emerson. By the way, so I found a bunch of slides that went with the talk this week, so please be patient with me because I couldn't choose. So I chose them all. So we're going to have a lot of visual aids. So, just out of curiosity, have any of you ever done what just happened in that parable? I mean, I know, yeah, okay, there we go, bravely. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I walked into stores and I'm like, oh my gosh, these shoes, this dress, this shirt, oh, this is so great. I love this. And I don't even think like, is it going to fit? How is it going to look? What's it going to feel like? I just want it to fit me. I'm willing it to fit me. And then I swing the pendulum from that unrealistic expectation to the very realistic and very abusive, well, that would never look good on me because I'm too something. And you can fill in the blank. So the first is the crime of trying to fit into another person's expression. And then even more painful is the beating up of ourselves for whatever reasons we have that we can't fit an expression that we want to be. So let's just delve into how painful this actually can be. There's a Greek myth about a man named Procrustes, and let me just say that his name kind of defines who he is. But he was this very strange host. He would invite people to stay in his home, and he would say, oh, no, sleep in my bed tonight. That's perfectly fine. However, if the traveler was too tall, Procrustes would lop their legs off to fit in his bed. And if they were too short, he would stretch them to fit in his bed. Now, it's true that we need to sometimes make adjustments. And I put that in quotes, adjustments to ourselves to accommodate, certain situations. You don't want to go to a job interview in PJs and a football helmet, unless it calls for it. But for the most part, we got to play a little bit of the game and dress the way we need to dress and show up the way we need to show up. So back in junior high, which was a galaxy far, far away, I was this weird kid. I was the kid, believe it or not. I know, it's so hard to imagine. But I just never quite fit in. Like, I always wanted the Levi's, and my mom would always get me, like, the knockoff with the pockets and the patches. And my three older sisters were, like, these perfect straight-A students, and I was not the straight-A student, and I was quirky. I was out there. And for a while, I really fought it, because I was like, man, I just want to be popular. I just want to be normal. Can't I just be like everybody else? And then at one point, I kind of went, this is kind of cool. I'm out there. I'm just going to be out there. And so I really started to embrace it. And I was very fortunate that I had a circle of friends around me, our little group, who were very, very, very willing to be my friends. And they embraced my strangeness, and they were all like top of the class, president of the class, honor roll. And my mom said constantly, I really don't understand how you cultivated these friends, but that's okay. So, but they really looked out for me, and they really supported me in my oddity. There I am. No, I'm just kidding. I love this picture for so many reasons. But yes, that would have been me if I had grown up in a Hasidic temple. So, but every year I was voted goofiest girl. At the end of the year, most likely to, smartest, cutest. I was voted goofiest. And if you look at my yearbooks, which of course I still have, it always says, you're really strange, but I like you. Or you're one strange girl, but I like being your friend. Or you're really funny, a little weird, but I like you. Every single one of them, like, all right, I'm sensing a theme. And I also used to do this thing where I would dress up on holidays to match the theme of the day. So like Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, any holiday, I would dress in the theme. And like some people, would wear a red shirt. No. I had the pigtails with the red and pink ribbons, and I had red hearts on my face, and I had a jumper that had pockets that were shaped like little hearts, and all out. And I remember in 8th grade, it was a very festive St. Patrick's Day. I went over the top. And I had been going steady with poor Matt Garrison, poor boy. And we'd been going steady for 3 whole weeks. It was serious. And he came up to me after St. Patrick's Day, and he said, "I have to break up with you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "My friends think you're too weird." So that took about 4.5 minutes to get over. But it was a hard 4.5 minutes. But I figured at that point, you know what? I'm never going to fit in, so why try? So I just started embracing the incredibly unfashionable clothing my mom bought for me, and just started embracing the fact that I was living just on that bell curve. I was like in the next room from the bell curve, and that was okay. Nelson Mandela, who, by the way, we are holding in prayer because he is fighting to stay with us, and I'm hoping that he can stay a little bit longer. He said this, and I love this. He said, "In judging our progress as individuals, we tend to concentrate on external factors such as one's social position, influence and popularity, wealth and standard of education. But internal factors may be even more crucial in assessing one's development as a human being. Honesty, sincerity, simplicity, humility, purity, generosity, absence of vanity, readiness to serve, qualities within the reach of every soul are the foundations of one's spiritual life. Never forget that a saint is a sinner that keeps on trying." I love that. Never forget that a saint is a sinner that keeps on trying. So we do this. We try on different personas. We try on different ways of being. There's I see a lot of high school and junior high and a lot of youth during my day. And so, I'll go from the goth to the punk to the hippie child to, and then of course in the LGBT community, there's the butch, there's the femme, there's this, there's that, there's political shifts, there's opinions shifting. And we try on different things and see, all right, well, now I'm going to be liberal. How does that feel? And does it match me? And do I feel comfortable with it? We don't always know what we want to be, and we don't ever have to decide because we're constantly evolving, constantly changing. And so we go into the fitting room of life, and right now I'm going to try this on and see how it works for me, maybe for a few months or a year or so. It's funny because for years I was pro death penalty. For years I was like, this is a great idea. And I had a real vengeance attitude about crime. And it was very interesting. I was on tour with a theater company. We were at St. Francis College, ironically, St. Francis College, of course. And this was, I think, 1994 or 96, and it was right near Joliet, Illinois. And that night that we were performing, at midnight that night, they were going to be doing the execution of John Wayne Gacy, who was an infamous serial killer, a very, very sad person, a person separated from spirit in so many ways. And that was the big night. And there were going to be protesters, pro and against, and the other actors and I were like, man, we should go. It's a 45-minute drive. This is history in the making. And we didn't, which I'm actually glad now. But later, years and years and years later, I was entering seminary and I had to take these personality tests, which I just have to say, I think it's funny that you take personality tests to go into seminary. I couldn't see the connection, but that was okay. Because once I was in seminary, I was like, did everybody have to take a personality test? Because wow. Just saying. Wow. But so we had to take this personality test, and the thing was click without thinking. So it was these questions, these yes or no questions, and you had to click yes or no and move on, move on, move on. They said this should not take more than 10 minutes, just move it along. So I'm clicking, and it said, do you support the death penalty? And I clicked no, and went on and went on. And I got 5 questions down, and I went, wait a minute, I do support the death penalty. So I went back up to the question, and I clicked yes. And I got nauseous. And I thought, I don't. when did that happen? And I have no idea when it happened, but I clicked no and felt much better and moved on. And I realized, oh, I changed my mind. That didn't fit anymore of who I was going to be. I was stepping into being a minister. That piece didn't fit, no matter what. And it certainly started some interesting conversations with people. But it felt right. I knew I was making the right change. So the trickiest part about these changes, Emerson talks about this, is dealing with people in your life who support you and love you just as you are, as long as you don't change. And Emerson says, I didn't write the quote down and I don't know why now, but it's a quote about speak your truth as strong as cannonballs today. And if your truth changes tomorrow, speak the new truth as strong as cannonballs again. Because the truth is going to be the truth no matter where you're standing, you're carrying it. And so it's painful sometimes when we make changes or choices in our life that those who love us say, well, no, I don't think so. I don't agree with that, or I don't like that. And trying to balance, okay, well, but this is who I am now, and I love these people, and it can get very, very tricky. And finding the new group or finding the new support system. And it's especially hard when we care and respect these people and want their care and respect in return. There's a young woman I know who is, she's in her teens, and she's really trying to figure out who she wants to be. And she's not had a lot of support in her life, and so she kind of morphs. So when she's with this group, she morphs into this group and becomes this. And then after a while, that doesn't jive, or she gets into a fight or disagreement or something. So then she goes over here, and she goes to this group and morphs into them. And she's never just her with these groups. She has to become just like them. And so she'll dress like them and talk like them and pick up the vocabulary of them. But it's not her. It's just copying so that she can fit into that group. And so her self-concept is, it doesn't start from a place of clarity. It's just this chalkboard that anybody can write on and then erase. And somebody made a comment, because I see her where I work, and I just accept her every time she walks in. If she's in a new phase, it's like, well, here you are again, and now you're new. And I don't have a difficulty with that. Of course, I don't do direct care with her, so I don't have to have a difficulty with that. But someone commented, oh, that's just her again. She's just changing to fit in. And she asked me what I thought. What do you think about this new me? And I said, I think it's great. I think it's great. How are you going to know who you are until you try everything on? And eventually, she's a teenager. Eventually, she'll reach that place where she goes, I landed here. I like it here. And that'll be for a little while. But the more she can land somewhere and be supported where she lands, the more she can figure out, is this me? Is this not me? Part of this is me. I'll keep this piece. And she'll develop who she is. But as long as people say, oh, you're just changing to fit in, how's she ever going to get any support for that? So I kind of roll with it. I say, well, that's who you are right now. That works. Does that feel good? Great. Roll with it. See how it goes. Because what happens a lot to many of us and to many of the, especially teenage girls right now, is this idea that the more we say, oh, that's not you, or that's not you, or you're just trying this, or you're just trying to be that, we get these extremes of self-harm and anorexia and Cinderella syndrome and like all these horrible things that kids are struggling with. I don't know, how many of you have ever read the actual original Grimm's fairy tale Cinderella? Not the Disney version. Because in the actual Grimm's version, it's disgusting. When the prince comes to try the glass slipper on the stepsisters, the stepmother is so desperate for the stepsisters to fit in it, she hacks off pieces of their feet. so that they're sticking their bloody stumps in a glass slipper. Yick. It's yucky. And the poor prince is like, I don't think so. But she wants them to fit. She wants them to be the princess. Of course, they cut that out for the Disney version because that would horrify children. So it's these things that we have to be careful of. I loved this slide. I just love Facebook. Facebook's great. The beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves we find in them. To really love someone just as they are, even if they're irritating or even if they're making choices that are painful. We don't have to accept their choices. We can still love them. I have people in my life that I love from over here. You're doing great. I love you. Stay over there. Because they need to. They're working their thing out. But that doesn't mean I love them any less. Also in A Galaxy Far, we're digging into the annals of Rachel's history here. At one point I was engaged because I really wanted to make my mother happy. Really, I did. And so I got engaged to this very nice man, but there was no way I could be what he wanted me to be. First of all, he wanted me to vacuum. It's not going to happen. You can ask my current wife. And things like, well, when we get married, you'll cook for me. When we get married, the house will be cleaner. When we get married, on and on. Meanwhile, when I moved into his house, all of my belongings stayed in boxes in the basement because his house was already decorated. And yet my mom was happy. My sisters were relieved. All of my friends were like, whew, Rachel's safe now. I was miserable. I was hacking off pieces of myself to try to fit into his house. It was horrible. Alan Watts wrote, "No one imagines that a symphony is supposed to improve in quality as it goes along, or that the whole object of playing it is to reach the finale. The point of music is discovered in every moment of playing it and listening to it. And it's the same, I feel, with the greater part of our lives. And if we are unduly absorbed in improving them, we may forget altogether to live them." I'm going to fix this. I'm going to change this. I'm gonna. But what's happening right now? Right now I'm in it. So why can't I enjoy it? Why can't I be here? It's funny because if you notice, if you go into bookstores like Barnes & Noble now, there's no self-help section anymore. It says things like self-improvement or spirituality. They've divided everything up. Self-help, the word help is no more. Because we've gone from needing help to a consciousness of pretty much knowing we're doing all right. We just need a little tweak here and there. In Alan Watts' quote, he talked about, being unduly absorbed in improving. And I think that word can be used in a couple of different ways. I'm always improving. We're always improving. We're always trying to do a little better. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as we are present in the moment of how that's happening. And it's very interesting because a lot of these themes of self-empowerment and self-encouragement that are in these books now are coming from people who've been through the darkness and have figured it out. So they've lived whatever experience it was that made them do the searching, and now they feel like they fit. So now they write the book to say, this is how I got here, which is incredibly helpful. I think it's incredibly helpful. I would much rather read a story of somebody who went through it as opposed to somebody who is like, oh, this is what I'm going to tell you. It's like, well, have you ever experienced that? No, but I have a friend who did, so I'm going to write a book. And it's like, well, no. So Heather and I have been watching The West Wing, which I love. And I don't know if I've shared this story before because I embrace my short-term memory loss. So I'm going to share it again. And if you've heard it before, you can sing along. So on one of the episodes, there's a character on The West Wing named Leo. He's a recovering alcoholic. And one of the other characters, Josh, is going through an emotional turmoil. He'd been shot, he was recovering from being shot, and he was losing it. And Leo was helping him. And Josh was like, why are you helping me? And Leo tells him the story. He said, there's a guy walking down the street and he falls into a hole. And the walls are really steep and he can't get out of the hole. And a doctor passes by and the guy yells, hey, doc, I'm in this hole. Can you help me? And the doctor writes a prescription and tosses it in the hole and walks on. So then a priest comes along and the guy's like, Father, I'm in this hole and I need your help. And the father says, well, I'm going to pray for you. God bless you, and walks on. And so finally a friend walks by and he's like, buddy, man, I'm in this hole. Can you help me? And the buddy jumps into the hole. And the guy's like, well, great. Now we're stuck in the hole together. Now we're both down here. And the buddy goes, yeah, but I know the way out. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. We find each other. We help each other. Listen to the people who've been there and have gotten out because they know. And their route out may not be the same as yours. However, it's a route out. And you can use it and then find your own answers to whatever works for you. One of my great teachers in life, who happens to be in this room, shared with me recently, a life lived trying to please others is a life lived in fear. Who are you trying to please? And I'm going to read this because this was on his wall. He wrote, if you are not, oh no, it's up here. He wrote, when we can let go of what other people think and own our story, we gain access to our worthiness, the feeling that we are enough just as we are, and that we are worthy of love and belonging. When we spend a lifetime trying to distance ourselves from the parts of our lives that don't fit with who we think we're supposed to be, we stand outside of our story and hustle for our worthiness by constantly performing, perfecting, pleasing, and proving. Our sense of worthiness, that critically important piece that gives us access to love and belonging, lives inside of our story. The greatest challenge of most of us is believing that we are worthy now, right this minute. Worthiness doesn't have prerequisites. So many of us knowingly create prerequisites. I'll be worthy when I lose 20 pounds. I'll be worthy if I can hold my marriage together. I'll be worthy if I can get pregnant. Here's what is truly at the heart of wholeheartedness. Worthy now, not if, not when. We are worthy of love and belonging now, right this minute, as is. And the next piece of this is that if you're not feeling worthy or good about yourself, then go ahead and make changes. Just know that external changes are not going to change this piece. They'll have an impact on you a bit, but they're not going to change till you do the inner work. The inner work, like what Nelson Mandela was talking about, is how we think about ourselves. It's what we say to ourselves when we look in the mirror. What we believe to be true about who we are now, not when I was little, not when I was in high school, not yesterday, and not tomorrow, but now, right now. And the inner work is how we talk about ourselves. I'm not good at that. I've never been strong. I wish I could. Oh, I wish I hadn't. And on and on. In August, I'm going to be doing a talk all about change, and we're going to go even more into this. And so come back. So that inner work is always going on, and it's always where the change is taking place. And, have you seen people, like on Biggest Loser, people lose 100 pounds, but their consciousness doesn't change? So they still dress and walk and act and talk like they're 100 pounds heavier. It's like they're still carrying it. Or people who win the lotto or Publishers Clearinghouse and blow through it in like a month or a year, and then are like, well, why am I poor again? It's consciousness. It's how they see themselves fitting into the world. So it's how we see ourselves, it's how we view ourselves, and it's how, most importantly, how we value ourselves. I mean, I always said to myself, well, what if I got $1 million tomorrow? What do I value? What is important to me? Who would I want to give to? What would I want to do with it? Would I want to buy 18 motorcycles? No. Maybe I'd buy one for Colleen if she wanted one. But what do we value and how we see ourselves and our value in the world? So in the movie Wrist Cutters, we've talked about this movie before. I love this movie. There's a great story, and it talks about once upon a time there was a crooked tree and a straight tree, and they grew next to each other. And every day the straight tree would look at the crooked tree and say, "You're crooked. You'll never be straight. You've always been crooked. You're going to be crooked forever. But look at me. Look at me. I'm a straight tree. I'm beautiful, but you're crooked." And on this would go. So one day the lumberjacks came to the woods, and they looked around, and the manager went, "So take down all the straight trees. Leave the crooked ones up." And the crooked tree is still standing there to this day, crooked as ever, growing and strange. So what does it all come down to? If the universe tried for billions of years, it would not be able to create another exact copy of you. Go dancing or something. As long as you're not harming yourself or anyone around you, just be you. What fits you? Let it fit you. Be comfortable. Be comfortable and confident. That's who you are. And if the time comes to make an alteration, or to make a change, be gentle. Be gentle with yourself. Be patient with those changes, because there's a part of you that's going to resist that change or resist that growth and go, "No, I want to stay the same." And so be gentle with it and courageous, because it takes courage. It takes courage to be yourself. It takes courage to change. It takes courage to change to be yourself. Does that all make sense? So I'm going to leave you with this last quote by Sherry Huber, and I want this. I'm not going to have it tattooed on my forehead, don't worry. I'm not going to say that anymore. It said, I would encourage you to not have preconceived notions about what or how you will be. That way, the entire range of possibilities will be available to you. And that is true. That is the truth. I love this. Go dancing or something. There's all possibilities. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being who we are right now. Yes? Awesome. So we're going to pray a little bit. So if you feel comfortable, you can bring your stone down to the water during the prayer time, and if not, you can also bring the stone down at the end of the service, whatever feels right for you. It's all good. So just taking this moment to be in this moment now, in this present moment, present with the chair you're sitting in, with the air you're breathing in, with the stone in your hand. Recognizing that there is this power and this presence that breathes each one of us. It is in us as us. It lives through our experience. There is no judging God. There is nothing outside of us that is telling us that we are not perfect. Because that thing, that essence, that life called God, called Spirit, is in each one of us, and it is experiencing life through us and as us, and so we are it. Just as the ocean is filled with drops of water, the entire ocean is in each drop. So Spirit in its fullness is in each one of us. How could we not be perfect already? And as the beautiful song says, how could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? It's impossible. They are not speaking truth. Because the truth is that we are each divine, lighted beings of Spirit, bringing our gifts forward, bringing our gifts to the life to the world every day as we are, who we are right now. And if tomorrow I change completely from who I am today, I'll still be expressing Spirit in its fullness. And if I change again the next day, I'll still be expressing Spirit in its fullness. God doesn't abandon us when we change. God celebrates us when we change. And then celebrates us when we discover that we're comfortable who we are. It's all about breathing and knowing and settling into a place of knowingness. That in some traditions they say, I and the Father are one. That is exactly it. Spirit, essence, oneness, the Creator, the love, the all, Allah, Buddha, Christ consciousness, Yahweh, all of it. It's the Energizer Bunny batteries in each one of us that moves us and breathes us and lives us and enjoys and finds joy in us, in our expression of life. So regardless of appearance, regardless of physical issues, regardless of whether you're on the planet physically or whether you have moved to another experience, God is present and celebrating and dancing. So it is with deep gratitude that I recognize this truth. For each one here, for myself, and for all those in consciousness. We are blessed and we are a blessing. We are blessed and we are a blessing. Thank you, God. Amen. Ashe.